Mr. Chair, we have 7 o'clock. Tonight is the day and time for the October Planning Commission meeting. The floor is yours.
Okay, we will call it to order at 7 o'clock and start with roll call. Gail?
Gail Linden, Huntington Woods, here.
Chris Kombieski, Huntington Woods, here.
Rick Pullen.
Sheldon Cohn.
Mike Wright. Looking for approval of today's agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Looking for approval of minutes, August 29th. This is the ones that we don't have, right?
That is correct, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair. You will have to defer that until.
Move to defer approval of the August, is it 29th or 24th?
29th. It was a special meeting.
Okay. Move to defer consideration or approval of the minutes of August 29th till our next meeting or until the minutes are available.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, first up, we have site plan review for addition to the Cushelman residence, 13119. Come on up. You can take a seat at that chair if you'd like. Are you the homeowner or the builder?
I'm the builder.
Oh, okay. Great. Did you want to take us through it, or do you want Hank to walk through?
It's pretty straightforward, really. I mean, she wants to put a second floor dormer off the south side of the house, the backyard, to put a bathroom up there.
Okay. Hank, you want to walk through it?
Yeah, I can. This is really very much a minimal addition to the house. Scott, you're looking at a white vinyl sided addition. It's not able to be a brick addition by virtue of where it is and the location. There's a 4030 slider proposed in there. There's no side elevations. It's really a very small dormer. There's really not much to say about it. You're just adding minimal space to the second floor.
The only thing that's changing on the exterior is that dormer pop-out?
Yes.
That's the only thing. Okay. All right.
If there's any questions, I'm sure Mr. Castle and myself will take a stab at answering them for you.
Okay, great.
This is the basic.
Okay. We'll open up for public participation. Anyone wish to say anything about this one? Seeing none, we'll close participation. Sheldon, you want to kick us off?
Perfectly fine, minimal, got no comments on it, no concerns
Thank you.
whatsoever.
Thanks. Rick?
No comments.
No questions or comments.
Yeah.
Nothing new to report or ask.
Same. Looking for a motion?
Move to approve the plan as presented.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You want your prints back?
I'll take one.
You too.
You too. Next up, we have addition to the Thompson residence at 10804 Vernon.
The minutes should reflect that Blake has joined us.
Apologies.
We're glad.
It'll
to
be on the
have
permanent record. Now that Sheldon called.
It always goes down on my permanent record.
You the homeowner or builder?
Homeowner,
Okay.
builder.
All right, great. Do you want to walk us through?
Sure, it's, she's doing a, I guess it would be a small, it's like a gable sun porch off the back of the house. I call it a sun porch because it's on, basically on piers like a deck would be, but it has a roof going over the top. And I think that, Hank can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that the issue is that, so we have it as, it's mostly windows all around the back, and then there's a gable on the top. We have it as sided because if you're looking at the rest of the house, there's a big, huge gable off the front, and that's all sided. It's brick on the sides, but then both of the gables on the side are sided. So then if we're going back with basically very similar to what we have in the front, having all the gables sided just like the rest of them, to me, would match the house and make it all consistent. The other issue is that because it's basically like a sun porch, it's not really a full-blown addition. It's really only a, what do you call that, a two-season room? the suggestion from Hank is that, you'd require brick, but it's mostly all windows. So that, even between the windows and places like that, you're not gonna be able to get brick there anyway, so you're gonna have some sort of a composite board or something like that anyway. So you're just gonna have a very minimal amount of brick if you were to require brick anyways. Most of it would be in the gable, and again, the gable matching the rest of the gables would be sided anyways. So the request is that we're able to allow that rear gable, or that rear, I guess you call it an addition or whatever, to match the rest of the 3 gables that are sided.
And the proposed material is hardy board?
Well, I believe the rest of it is aluminum, and so hardy, I guess what we would probably do is a white vinyl to match aluminum, an 8-inch smooth to match the other elevations.
Okay. I asked because I thought it was called out.
It is, okay, so then I guess it is gonna be hardy, yeah, okay. Yeah, we've been around and around with architects and this and that several times on this, so I guess I can remember exactly what it was. But yeah, it'd be hardy then.
Hank, anything to add?
Yeah, basically, again, this is a very simple addition. The only reason it's here is because of the brick issue. So, and there is a way that it could be brick. So regardless of which, I always try to take the position that some siding is good, it breaks up the architectural mass of the structure. And you've seen that before. They have an octagonal window up at the top, or a hexagonal window up, no, it's octagonal, up at the top for some more interest in the gable. This is nothing that would be out of character for the house. Again, this is here because I have to bring it here. And I believe, Dr. Thompson, yeah, so I believe Dr. Thompson has not deviated from what the house essentially is. It's a brick house. There's a brick wainscoting on this, so there is some brick on the back of it. So you can take a look and you can see what they've done. There is a lot of glass there. It's here because it has to be here, by virtue of the install.
Okay.
It's under the maximum house size, it's under the lot coverage, it meets all the requirements.
Great. We'll open up for public participation. Seeing none, we'll close it. And Gail, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm noticing on the windows, and I'm trying to see the dimensions, but most of the windows look like they're taller than they are wider on two of the sides, and then on one side, it's longer than it is taller, and I'm wondering what the reasoning is. The windows don't seem to match.
Do you want me to answer that, Seabrook?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay. I'll take a whack at it. Typically, when you have rooms like this, you have arrangements for furniture and furnishings in the rooms. My guess, and I don't know this, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but on the one side, you have the door wall and the room and the window next to it. That's not a furniture wall, nor will it be.
Right.
On the other wall, where it has the higher, that would allow for a couch. So if there was gonna be a TV or something that was gonna be on the third wall, there's not a whole lot of space. So you have to see what it's gonna be like, but because of the generous amount of fenestration, the window heights on the 2 separate things allows for some different furniture placement, and I'm not sure that that's what you had in mind, but it would seem to me that that would make sense.
Yeah, it's not so much where the window starts in the wall, it's what the window looks like in the frame. That they're not all matching window frame, sort of side windows when you look at the drawing. On the west elevation, they're different than what they would be on the east elevation and on the,
Well, you got a patio door on the east.
Right.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
door, it's a door wall.
Window on
Door
the
wall.
side, the rest of the windows are all,
606.
yeah.
It's a door wall.
I know one's a door wall, and then it's the one that's on the west, I'm trying to find where it's west, east, and then what is the other side, south,
North,
north?
yep.
Yeah, the north ones are all vertical, the east ones are all, when I'm saying vertical, the window is longer going down itself in the panes, whereas the ones that are on the west side are squarer looking windows.
The grills grills are just.
The grills are different.
Yeah, the grills are just.
I'm looking at the grills and
So
the
you're
windows.
looking at the mutton bars?
Yes, that's what I didn't like. That the mutton bars on the west are different than the mutton bars on the east and the north.
So,
Okay,
the only thing that I can tell you about that is from looking at the plans, is that they're all 6060s. The ones on the one side, and they're all sliders. So that's 6 over on the one for the north elevation, and it's
4 over.
4 over on the west elevation. It's 6 over for the door wall, and then it's 4 over for the slider for the other one. So there is some 4-0 and there is some 6-0 with that. And the difference is just the grill pattern. And I'm gonna guess, and Seabrook, you could check and see, but I'm gonna guess that that pattern's available. Those snap in anyway. Were those SDLs that you were gonna use?
I guess what I would say is I've never built a house or designed a space or created a window size based on the size of the muttons. So, I mean, I suppose we could,
No, I'm just saying that it's available, if that was a sticking point. In the historic district, it's very much a sticking point, but this is not a historic district house.
yeah, I mean, like, just like you said, you got the size of the window has the muttons based on the size of the window. So, I mean, if you went less muttons, then they would be larger than the other ones. If you went more muttons, then it'd be smaller than the others. So the only way to make it exactly the same would be change the actual size of the window to be the exact size as one of the other windows to have the muttons exactly the same dimensions. Which seems,
My opinion is that the west elevation's just drawn wrong. If they're 6060,
It's gonna
it
end
should
up.
match the north elevation. They're just, the pattern's
Yes.
wrong when they drew it.
Right, because that's what I was looking at also, that they were 6060 and the drawings don't match each other.
Oh.
One's,
You're not gonna order them with two different patterns.
right. I see what you're saying, yeah. So
It's just
there's
not-
3 wides, one's 3 wide and one's 2 wide.
It's not articulated correctly in the plans.
Yeah, I guess
that's
so.
all it is, because they both were the same size windows, but the mutton bars were different in them, and I'm wondering why.
The options that they typically come with is you can order them in a diamond pattern, half mutton, half not. There's all different kinds of way you can do this. The way that it's drawn, it's likely that that's gonna be a 6 over.
Yeah, we're gonna measure them and give them to the window company and they're gonna build them.
It's the same rough opening.
Right,
Right, that's what I had noticed. One is
So-
3 sets of windows, the other is 2 sets, but the windows themselves look different, and that's
Yeah,
why I was asking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It-
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Rick.
think all we have to do is clarify that those windows are gonna be the same.
yeah, sure.
Thank you. That's it.
I mean, I am not troubled by the siding. I reviewed the drawings at home. In this particular case, I think it's all fairly integral to the existing structure. Yeah, I mean, I'm not burdened by this whole sort of window discrepancy at all. I think the window design is contiguous with the existing structure. And the whole mutton bar pattern thing gets worked out when you order the windows, so
Right.
I think it looks great.
Thank you.
No questions that have already addressed.
Thanks. Rick?
So the house is white, correct? The front
Yes.
siding's white. The window above this addition is white, correct? So everything's white? Addition's gonna be white? Okay, no issues.
Yeah. The number of muttons in the windows makes no difference to me at all. I mean, either I'm looking at the back or I'm looking at the side, and the only reason I can see that difference is because Gail pointed it out.
I also pointed out the other 2 reasons why you have papers on your desk today.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I've got no problem with the plan as presented, and I also am reasonably certain, given the conversation that's going on here, that the windows are all gonna, if they're 60 by 60s, they're all gonna be uniform. Anyway, so, just as a practical matter.
Only issue I have is the difference in the siding. You know, while you're doing this, it seems to make the most sense to clad the existing gables in hardy, but we can't make you do that.
And that's probably something she'll do in the future.
Anything else, Mike?
No,
Put up for a vote?
yeah, this was again, it's a simple one.
Okay, looking for a motion?
Motion to approve the plans for the 3-season room, submitted.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Want your plans back?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Right.
You know you'll need them. Right. There's one right there.
This is Thomas and
Yeah, that's true, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later. Take care. Okay, so, Mr. Chair, we're coming to the safe routes to school and complete streets. If it's okay with you, I'll update you on that.
Great.
Okay, so I'd like to break this down into 11 Mile and Coolidge Highway. As you know, the safe routes to school was something that we wanted to champion. It was something that the planning commission had tops of their list. And we bit into it quickly and hard. We have already applied for a joint grant with Berkeley and Oak Park. The grant is already in. We had hired a contractor to help us with the grant application, with OHM Engineering. And they got all the information from all the three communities, collated it, put it into the form, uploaded it, and that grant application is in. Now, what's it for? Okay, so what we looked at was we had TIA come out, and that was that extensive report that I had sent you to take a look at. First off, what TIA does is they take a look at the crashes, they take a look at the congestion, they take a look at traffic counts, they take a look at all that information, and they take into consideration what it is that we want out of this deal. We had met with myself, City Manager Chris Wilson, and City Manager Matt Baumgarten from Berkeley, pardon me. And we had actually met and we had walked 11 Mile. And what we're looking to do is we're trying to get our kids safely across and back on 11 Mile. And for those of you that have been here a while, and for those of you, some of you like Chris, for example, lives right there, those streets are a nightmare to cross. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to add a traffic light. The traffic light would be right here. Two reasons for that. One is because you have the Scotia to Mortensen crossing, so we would cross right over here on the other side of the driveway by the police station and go to their sidewalk. Why would we do that? One, it gives public safety the control over the light. So if they have to hit the light and turn it red so they can get out or back the truck in, they can do that. So it'll save time and it'll save problems getting people to slow down trying to get the truck out. Two, it'll be an actual traffic signal, which will require people to stop, not slow down, not look, not play dodging with the kids. They're stopping. That'll be a traffic signal. Both Berkeley and us are very much in agreement that that's needed to happen for a long time. So we've got that kind of figured out. Another thing that a traffic light will do is it will calm traffic on 11 Mile. So what does that get? With a light, that means people will actually be able to back out of their driveways on 11 Mile without taking their life in their hands. Or people will be able to turn onto and off of 11 Mile because it also looks as a dedicated left turn lane to be installed. The road will be narrowed slightly, there will be a dedicated left turn lane, one lane each way, and we will have traffic signals. So that was it for the traffic signal there, and that's basically what we're doing. And now when we get the grant, which I really feel strongly that we will, then at that point in time, we can look to exactly how we're gonna implement that. I will have an actual plan to show you. But it's my intent throughout this process that when we get documents and we get reports, that I do forward them to you, because this was on your priority list and this was number one on it, so we are moving on it. So then what else were we looking at? We have some intersections that are not safe. So like the 11 Mile in Woodward, none of our kids cross at 11 Mile in Woodward to get to Berkeley, to go to Berkeley High. That's just not where they cross. They come down this way until they get a point, and then they run across the street. They don't go all the way down to Coolidge and cross there either. So, and I know from many times that I've watched my own kids doing that, living on Kingston and watching this, it's kind of a nightmare. And it's not any better when they drive. But aside from that, it's one of those things that we have to take a look at and getting our kids safe for us to school. So where would the second one be? So we have a park over by the Reynolds Park, which is at Meadow Crest and 11 Mile. So we would put another one across Mid-Park to Berkeley there. That gives the people a chance to cross from there and over into the Berkeley side, so that not everybody has to walk way down here. They can get into Berkeley and meander through the streets, and it's a more expeditious route for them to do that, rather than come down here and do this. And these kids always have to leave, because we're not a busing district, so these kids have to leave.
Are you talking about a full traffic light at Meadowcrest and?
No, I'm talking about a hawk beacon, and that was described in there. So what the hawk beacon is that when there's people there that wanna cross, you hit the button and it turns the lights red, and then that's for them to get across. So when's that gonna be used? Periodically, maybe throughout the day. Definitely at 7:30 when the kids are going to school, and definitely at 4 o'clock when they're coming back. So that's where that would be. The third one, which would be a similar thing, down on Henley. And that would be a similar thing for similar reasons. And the reason that we asked for 3 is because if you don't ask for the funds for it all, you don't get it. You can always drop something out. But before we start dropping things out, I would rather have an awful full menu for everybody to make a decision and say, yeah, okay, we get this one, we get that one, this one not so much. So if it comes down to, for dollars and cents, we have to drop something out, well, obviously it would be either the Meadowcrest or it would be the Henley one.
All right, I'm slow. I don't think I'm the only one in the room. We got the traffic light at Scotia.
Yeah.
What is happening at Henley and Meadowcrest?
The similar thing that we're talking about for the hawk beacon, the crossing, the push button crossing thing.
On demand.
But it wouldn't have a light there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It would be
it's a
a-
hawk
If-
beacon. It's a pole with lights over it that would go,
Oh, okay.
And a
So
pedestrian-
the only time it ever works
On
is when you.
demand.
Okay, I'm sorry.
if nobody hits
Yeah,
the
yeah.
button.
Okay.
So we do wanna move traffic. Our goal is not to freeze it. Our
Okay.
goal is to slow it down. But more importantly than any of that, our goal is to get the kids back and forth safe.
Got it. That makes sense. Sorry.
Conversely, there's a lot of Berkeley people that use that park, Reynolds Park, and also frequent the hair salon and also frequent the coffee shop, the Monarch Coffee Shop over there. So that makes a little bit more sense to us as far as the second location, with the third location being Henley. So that's kind of where we're at with the 11-mile side with that. So once we get a full planning document, you all will be seeing it, you all will be able to comment on it, and we'll go from there. We'll have some costs as far as what this will cost to build. That's where we'll be with that one. The other thing is that because Berkeley has no interest between Coolidge, between 11 Mile and 10 Mile, other than they want to slow that down and meet up with their bike lanes, which it's my understanding they're going to try to keep. So having said that, it would make sense. Oak Park also wants to reduce the amount of lanes there as far as that, and that would help with crossings there, as well as a traffic calming effect for Coolidge Highway, which really at times does act like a highway. So why would we want to do that? Well, there's several reasons. One is that we have a population that uses North Middle School from that side, so from our side. So they need to go all the way to Lincoln to cross. And a lot of them would like to cross sooner than that, and it would make sense. So we have a park over there as well that we're looking at, and we're in the process of applying for a grant with the city of Oak Park in conjunction with them. Nobody's doing this in a vacuum. All the communities have already been talked to, and all the communities are pretty much on board with this, 100% as we are right now. Having said that, nobody's seen like the estimated costs or the bills or anything for what Coolidge might entail. So, we want to reserve some judgment on that. But the idea is sound. We also have a very large Orthodox Jewish population in Huntington Woods that would use that crosswalk to get to and from shuls, temples, that would be located in Oak Park, and forwards and backwards. And the reason that it is because the Orthodox population does not drive on Saturdays, and they walk to their, to wherever they need to be. So that's one thing, but importantly also is that we have a good amount of kids. Our NORA population for the kids is we account for almost 28% of NORAP's population are Huntington Woods kids. Conversely, we have, I think it was 25 or 26% accounts for Berkeley High School as Huntington Woods kids. And those figures come from the school board, is where we got those figures. So we roughly are a third, at least a quarter to a third of the students. So that transcends to having twice a day there and back. So that's a lot of crossings, that's a lot of kids, and again, that was a very important part of this. And the grants that we're going after for some of this is gonna be the Safe Roads to School grants. Actually, we're gonna try to, as hard as we can, get as much money as we can from other sources. So that works out well, but we are working with the Coolidge, on Coolidge, we are working with the Oak Park Planning Department. Both city managers have been in the conversation so far. And we should have some documents fairly soon for us to start working on. But the entire grant process for the 11 mile came out between Huntington Woods, Oak Park, and Berkeley, and was completed, the whole grant application was completed in less than 2 weeks. So, that was a good bust out for all three communities on that. We'll have a little bit more time for the Oak Park and Huntington Woods collaboration for Coolidge. There's still some things to be sorted out. There's bioswales, whether or not you want to do the bike lane thing, whether or not you want to have any trails, or whether there's any money for trails, or because we have a very large right-of-way on Coolidge between 11 and, between 10 and Lincoln.
So there's no proposal for exactly what the Coolidge crossing would look like yet? Whether
Not
it's
yet.
a light or
Not
a
yet.
talk beacon? Okay.
But again, we did commission TIA. TIA has not been out there yet. We did this one first because the 11 mile is, it's been a nightmare for years. At least with Coolidge, there is a Lincoln crossing, and there typically is a crossing guard there. So that's one of the things that made us put that on the back burner until we got to this. But as soon as we got done with that application, we've already had conversations and meetings with Oak Park on this.
Who employs those crossing guards?
City of Huntington Woods. School, they're paid for by Huntington Woods. The ones you see down here are like at Burton, those are Huntington Woods, and then the Public Safety Department's always sent an officer down there.
And the one at Lincoln is Huntington Woods too?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about possibly besides the Lincoln crossing on Coolidge, whether it gets a road diet or that's evaluated or whatever else, that there might be a hawk system or something like that because of the shuls or because of the school, because Lincoln is a good place for the kids for Norup to be crossing it. I don't think you need anything between Lincoln and 11 Mile for
Well,
crossing in that area.
We don't necessarily, there is a secondary proposal on the table, that there's a special interest group that that has approached as far as wanting another light at Talbot. That's something that wasn't on our radar. And again, nothing is finite yet, nothing is done with that. It's gonna be based on needs, but I will tell you that there's several hundred crossings a day from kids. And, that's the scariest thing. Here we're slowing down, 4 lanes, there we're slowing down 5. So it's a big thing.
And did you say on the 11 Mile for cars getting out or whatever else? I heard you say, a road diet also there, cutting it down to 1 lane each direction and a turn lane in the middle?
Yeah, it would be more than, not so much like a road diet, it would be like dedicating a left turn lane in a traffic calming situation. road diets don't adequately describe all the effects that's happening here. The people that live on 11 Mile, deserve to be able to back their cars out and without taking their life in their hands. And in the zoning ordinance, we made special provisions for 11 Mile so that they can have semicircle driveways on 50-foot lots, which is effectively paving their front yard, because we recognize they have a problem. So how nice would it be if we could afford them the opportunity, and this would be on this side there, and then we have the light at Woodward, so there'd be two lights that cars would physically have to stop at on a regular basis. And then they could get their cars in and out of the driveway. A lot of us that live on 50-foot lots in Huntington Woods or more try to get cars out. You know, you do the Huntington Woods shuffle. If you got 3 or 4 cars in your driveway, you gotta move them all if the last one doesn't come in right. So I'm a veteran of that myself, but yeah, that would be how we would be able to help them and enhance that. Plus, if the lanes are narrowed and if it's 1 lane each way with a center lane reduction, with a center lane dedicated left turn situation, that would also put more space between the vehicles and the houses.
I think Sheldon's trying to.
Yeah, couple things.
Sure.
You haven't, there's been no, to the extent it's been done on 11 Mile, there hasn't been a similar plan put in place as far as the location of whatever the traffic control would be on
TIA
Coolidge.
studies. We're waiting the TIA study for Coolidge.
Okay, jurisdictionally, who has control over 11 Mile besides the adjacent cities? And who has control over Coolidge besides the
Coolidge
adjacent?
is a little bit different animal, and that we'll have to be bringing in different parties for that. But that's gonna be determined.
I mean, is any of this is county or state?
The service drive would be like a county road. This may be county, but we'll have to see whatever TIA recommends and whatever bodies they want to go through will be contacted.
I'm sure. I was just curious. The other thing is, you seem to be packaging the traffic control signals, whatever they turn out to be, with lane reduction.
Yes.
Okay? Is that all part of the grant that's being asked for?
Yes,
Okay, so you're putting the whole package together.
yes.
Can the grant authorize either end of that, like the traffic control without the lane reduction, or vice versa?
It can be, the grant that we're having now is gonna be the planning grant. So this is gonna be the actual bricks and mortar of what has to happen here. So that's gonna go through a couple iterations. There's gonna be more conversations between the communities over that. There likely, or there could be, where if you have 3 options for stoppages and crossings, that you only end up with 2. And a lot of that's gonna be dictated by cost, a lot of that's gonna be dictated by practicality, and a lot of that's gonna be dictated by traffic flow.
My question is, to what extent does one project or the other rise or fall based upon lane reduction?
As it is right now, we're asking for that, because it furthers the safe routes to school. The closer the space that you have, the easier it is to get people across. So that's why we're packaging them together. Are the 2 have to go hand in hand? No, but that's what the plan's gonna be. And then we decide what we're gonna do based on what the plan tells us.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Are Berkeley and Huntington Woods both looking for the grants to cover these completely, or are each city?
Right now, we're looking for the planning grants to get us some actual, what do we gotta do, what do we have to do to enable this? The first thing with anything is always striping. Striping's cheap. Before we go into anything that would require any construction remotely in the road, this will get a good test. And it's kinda like when you take a look at what Berkeley did with their, bike lanes on Coolidge. At first, it was a nightmare. Everybody complained about it. Now it takes me next 2 to 3 minutes to get to 12 Mile from 11 Mile is all it really does. So, but it's a traffic calming device. For Berkeley at that point in time, it made sense because now people can see the places, they have places to go, there's a bike lane there. Whether or not people use it, I don't have the data on that. But it's there, and if nothing else, the space is reserved. Whether they wanna later turn it into bioswale, or they wanna turn it into something different, they have the lanes already there. And then the outside of that is too, has it increased traffic on Woodward? I don't think so, I drive that every day too. Has it put traffic on Greenfield? I drive that less, but I don't think so. I think that after a while, or anytime you do a lane issue, or you do anything with bike lanes or anything like that, there's a getting used to it period. And the thing is that when we do this, assuming that we do this, because once we get everything in place, obviously the city commission has to weigh in on it after the planning commission. And then, if they bless the project, then, we go ahead. But nothing will be without public participation, nothing will be without public input, and, there will be points in time where we involve the public substantially. At this point, all we've done is apply for a grant, but that's what the grant's for, that's what it's gonna cover. Because it was high up on your priority list, that's what we're looking for.
Where do we, just on my ignorance,
Yeah.
who are we applying to? What organization?
Well, there's a couple of this. We got help with the National League of Cities, there's SEMCOG grants, there's federal grants, state grants.
Okay.
So we're basically telling you what we're doing, Chris. We're looking for, with all due respect to everybody, we're looking for anybody that'll give us
Right.
money to do
Okay.
this. Or help us with this.
And then,
This has been sitting on the docket for so long, and, I believe it was Sheldon that, kind of made the point of, we do the master plans, and he's a veteran of a couple of these, and, maybe 3. But in any case, you do it, you plan, you do a great job, you come up with a great plan, and it sits. And, this one we're kind of determined not to let sit.
and then what's the ETA of when we might hear back?
Grant application is supposed to be, hopefully we find out sometime in January.
Okay,
So we'll know what funding, first we have to get the grant, if we don't get it, we'll try someplace else. There's a substantial cost for that, right now, the only thing that we're on the hook for is, the engineer that helped us prepare the documents.
and then as far as the light that would be here, the traffic light itself, are we thinking that would be, wait, that's too far down the line. Tell me if it is. Would it be like timed, like, okay, it's blinking yellow after 10 o'clock at night until
Maybe.
6 o'clock in the morning? That's probably later on.
And the thing, it's down the road, but what's gonna happen is that TIA is gonna look at that
Okay.
for us. And, what they do is they give you recommendation of what it should be like realistically. Does that need to be yellow all day long? So it just by the fact that it's there and it's flashing yellow, that's gonna slow people down
Sure.
right there. And does it only work like, when you're crossing like lunchtime, kids to school, kids coming home from school, that type of thing? Maybe, but anything that light does is going to help the residents on 11 Mile with traffic. It's not going to jam them up. Granted, there may be some traffic like at first where everybody's going, what the heck, and, but that goes away. And I mean, Coolidge is evidence of that.
Yeah.
And, while a lot of people don't favor the lane reduction and a dedicated left turn lane, it makes a lot of sense. And the goal here would always be to protect our kids, and the other part of the goal would be is to do what we can to enhance the residents that live on 11 Miles quality of life. And if this does it, we would have gained a lot.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody that, as you pointed out, I live right behind Reynolds
Yeah.
Park, trying to make a left onto 11 Mile during rush hour, good luck.
Yeah.
You could be there for 5 or 6 minutes at least.
You come out Meadowcrest, I come out Newport.
Yeah,
News. So
same
it's-
thing, yeah.
It's just not, but that would give you a break.
Yes,
And that would be the thing, and, so not only for the people trying to turn out, and some of you, depending on how you travel, you come out here and say, at some point in time in the morning, the traffic will be from here waiting to turn left, all the way down to Boardman. And part of that is, and I know because I try to cut through it, and you can't. So a lot of this will help us eliminate that. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that, and those are ancillary benefits, But the key point here is that we will finally, hopefully if all this goes through, we will finally have a safe route to school for our kids.
I'm curious, when you hear people objecting to slowing down 11 Mile, what is the,
There's general misconceptions and I don't wanna say complete misconceptions, cause at first, it will happen. Where 11 Mile will get more congested because now you're trying to fit 4 lanes into 3, which is one direction lane each way, but you're also taking out the cars that are turning left.
Yes. Right.
And you're putting them in a dedicated lane, so now that one lane keeps moving, cause it doesn't take long for a car to take a right turn off of any street.
Yeah.
The turn is when it's the left, but the left will now be sitting there. So while people will be getting used to it at first, there may be some more congestion, but over a period of time, those tend to lessen and it starts to work out real well. At that point in time, we may move from striping to another form of doing that with traffic islands or something down the road. But that's nothing that we're gonna have to see what we get, what they all recommend, what the engineers recommend. We kind of gave them the goals. And we'll let them take a look at it.
I mean, to me, there just seems to be no downside at all. Like, you slow down 11 Mile, you don't see people getting ticketed there all the time, it's safer for the kids, it improves the home values for the people on 11, it allows them to back in and out, people can access the community and back and forth, like, I don't know. That's it.
Curious what kind of revenue loss the city will see from ticketing.
Well, here's the thing, and I just want to point that out, is the whole point of sending somebody out to sit there on 11 Mile really isn't so much the revenue
It's
that
to
we
slow
get
it
off
down.
of that. It's to slow the traffic.
Yeah.
And if we can slow the traffic down, then that's what we're doing. We used to have one officer, who used to constantly write tickets on 11 Mile. And the reason he constantly wrote tickets on 11 Mile was because people were speeding. If they weren't speeding, he wouldn't write the tickets. So unfortunately, he retired, and, we still have other officers that are out there doing the same thing. But doing this would reduce the speed and the need to assign manpower to do that. So there's an upside all the way around to this. I will tell you that our public safety department's been involved in this from the get-go, and they're supportive of it. They particularly like the idea that they would have a light override for their fire trucks and emergency vehicles as it leaves here. And even if we're looking to, and this again is something that will come up, if there is a development here, all that still works. All of it. So that's kind of where we're at with it, but I did want to, bring it up and have you take a look.
It would be great to see that actually materialize, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's been a long time coming, and we were able to get all the communities on board and all of the communities to kind of agree in principle, and not only that in principle, but with the type of equipment that it would take to do this. So we're farther along on 11 Mile than we are on Coolidge, but we're taking the same steps, and I anticipate a favorable result with that as well.
If we're having conversations with Berkeley for 11 Mile and Oak Park for Coolidge, are there conversations between Berkeley and Oak Park for the continuation of 11?
That was all part of the one grant.
Okay,
what
so
they-
that 11 Mile possibly could have the same effect going down 11 Mile from Coolidge to Greenfield.
We've also had Royal Oak to the table with this, and Royal Oak is looking at a lane reduction for their side of Woodward as well. And I don't mean not to include Royal Oak. It's just Woodward's a tough road once you get across that. It's different than 11 Mile and Coolidge, but Woodward's been on board. They have to go through their engineers. They have a lot of things to do, but their goal would be to be part of this program, and we're ecstatic to have them.
So that's just notification, right?
Yeah, no,
nothing
there's nothing that needs
Okay.
to be done, but, it was important that since it was on the priority list, I didn't want you guys to think we were sleeping. So, we have been busy with that, and I hope to have a meeting very shortly. When I say that, I mean like perhaps even this week with Oak Park, and see how much further we can go. Right now, there's an email chain going between us and Oak Park, and, you know, taking a look and seeing what it is, and TIA trying to get them to come out. The first step's always TIA, because if they tell you don't do this, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So, they usually have some very good ideas as how to best do it, and again, this is coming from years and years of experience, and as you could see, there's a lot of empirical data there that they use in order to make some decisions and recommendations.
Just the last thing, just to,
Yeah, sure.
if we got the monies, the grants and everything was 100%, how quickly would these materialize, to your point? Are we talking next spring, next summer,
It
next fall?
won't be next spring, next summer, because the money's not gonna materialize that fast. Even if we get the planning grant and we get to make up the plans and, you know, finite detail what exactly we're gonna get and what we want, that'll depend on costs. Once we get that done and we have a set of documents, then we have to find somebody to do it, and, in our.
Construction funding is separate from planning funding.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And one's gonna take a larger commitment than the other. The lights roughly ballpark, they're about $250,000 a piece. So
Wow.
there's, yeah.
That's for the beacons?
That's
Not the
for the
Oh,
lights.
sorry.
Yeah, that's for the lights. The beacons would be probably a little bit less, but need to understand that there's a lot of moving parts. For that one down there, we gotta move the smart stop. Okay, so that means we gotta get hold of smart. So there's a lot of components to this that, make it a little bit more challenging than, let's stick a light here, all we need to do is run the power to it. Although that is a big thing, but, it's an ambitious project, but it's something that, Huntington Woods and Berkeley and Oak Park, and to the extent Royal Oak's part of that, have all expressed a big interest in. So, that's kind of where we're at. Fair question, but I mean, I
Sounds
can't-
like a 2-year minimum.
Yeah, you're probably right.
is.
Yeah.
You're probably right,
Sounds like I want to start making traffic lights.
yeah, so.
By the
Yeah.
way, 250 is correct. I just bought one for 213 on Middle Belt Road, so
Yeah.
that is very accurate.
I would have never guessed that much.
Well,
It's also Huntington Woods, and it's gonna be too
we'll
soon.
have a nice, no,
We'll let you know.
Don't
It's
see
gonna
the
be
money
nice.
tree.
Yeah, it's gonna be super
The
nice.
difference with that is that a lot of it will depend on what it is, what offsets, what striping goes with it, what your final costs are, but typically lights for that, lights are not cheap. You do have to run power there. There has to be separate, and because of what we have with our public safety department, we have an override button. You know, there's some costs involved in these things, and that's absolutely true. So to the extent that we could get grant money, safe routes to school money, any of those type of things like that to help us defray the cost, it's real hard to say no to making the kids safer. It just is. So, and I would, while people may have dissenting opinions as to the best use of any funding like that, that's what's on the planning commission, that's what that's what you guys have decided to, make one of your top priorities, and, the goal there would be to run it up the flagpole and let's see who salutes it, but this is a really good first step for us.
So can I ask, look, it's all about the kids, so we're all on the same page. Half joking, but no, I do think it's a good investment. What about the other priorities? I'm not even sure what is number 2.
We're not gonna get there
Not
until
even-
this grant
okay.
is done, and the reason that we're not gonna get to it is because as soon as this grant ramps up, we are all grant 24/7 until that gets done. And there's not gonna be a lot of time for that. I anticipate moving to other, things once we have the grant application for the second part in, and we know if we're getting the first part. And at that point in time, if we don't get our funding or we don't have anything like that to do, then we may look to other priorities for that. I feel very good about this grant.
Yeah, good.
No public, so I guess we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
How did I miss, I was what, 2